What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Salt and Pauper Saturday video. Today we're going to dive into the quick hits, or the best cards that we think are going to make an impact or could make an impact on the Pauper format, both constructed and for the Pauper Cube, from Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. We finally have the whole set, and leading into the pre-release party, I want to give you guys a quick template as to what to look for the most powerful commons. So joining me as usual is going to be Josh, aka Mayo on the internet. What's up, man?
Hello, that's me.
You a big Lord of the Rings fan?
I do enjoy myself from Lord of the Rings, but I'm not um, so crazy as to have read all of the books,
I
regrettably.
have not read all the books, and that, torch me in the comments, I guess. But um, I would consider myself a fan. I've seen all the movies for what that's worth.
Notably not a Hobbit fan, though. Not a live action Hobbit fan.
It was okay. Um, yeah, excited about this set. I think that this set is going to be an incredibly popular one, for obvious reasons, and the crossover is going to be very powerful in a lot of formats. Unfortunately, I'm not sure Pauper is going to be one of them. We had originally talked about doing our full set review for the Pauper set, and really had trouble finding cards we wanted to talk about. So the dry spell for some of the colors in Pauper continues, but we are going to jump right in. Okay, first card up, Mirkwood Bats. Mirkwood Bats is a 4-mana bat creature. It's a 2/3 with flying, and whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. This costs 3 and a black. So just a single black pip for this effect. It is a 2/3 in the air, which is pretty helpful. Um, let's see. I know that we have a 2/2 for 4 for whenever creatures die, but this is a pretty unique effect. And I think there's going to be at least a little bit of excitement about this card. Not sure where it fits in yet, but I feel like this card is definitely going to be a win condition for several combos. What do you think? What were your initial thoughts on this card?
So first thing that I thought of when I saw this bat is, why does that 2/3 flyer cost 4? And then I read the second ability. And honestly, it's reasonably costed. I think it's a slightly better, especially on the extra point of toughness, better guy that drains for 1 when another creature dies. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I think Mirkwood Bats fits into um,
You mean the vampire, right?
that tokens one. Yeah, I think Mirkwood Bats fits very well into that other deck with that ran a lot of the cheap token creations and the Gilder Baron and just all of the
Right,
just
sure.
token
A Target
effects.
Home was what that deck was
Yeah,
called, right?
that's mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a
And I think
really interesting place to put this card. Notably, that deck runs on a very low curve, though, so I'm not sure this card will, like, be on the battlefield before they're trying to have the game over with, right?
well, thankfully it's when you create or sacrifice a token.
Mhm.
Um, so it's fine if you miss out on the creating part. That deck's never gonna stop creating tokens though,
No,
so
that's
you're
not quite
going
what
to
I
be fine.
mean. I mean, the deck was an aggro
Mhm.
deck, right? It's trying to end the game before it gets to 4 mana, right?
I'm- I thought it was a little bit
Because it's
different. I
using
didn't think it
Rites
was
of
aggro very
Initiation
much.
to, like, really go fast.
You're thinking of that version of it. I thought there was another one that was slower. Maybe it could have been the decks I was playing against at the time, where it was just the default control deck.
Oh, perhaps it could have had a version that goes slower. That's the only version
Mm.
I remember. But the card you're talking about, by the way, is Falcon Wrath Noble.
That's it. I remember the
Um,
art too.
and while I do agree that the toughness is a big deal here, I don't think that this is better than Falcon Wrath Noble. I think that a creature dying is much more relevant than create or sacrifice a token. I think there will be specific instances where Mirkwood Bats is far and away better.
Mhm.
But it's important to know that Mirkwood Bats only says lose one life. It doesn't drain one
Mhm.
life. And life gain from Falconwrath Noble was oftentimes just as relevant as the clock it presented. Um,
Yeah,
at
and
least
this
in the
is the thing
cube.
with this bat is still a 2 point life swing though. If say for instance you're making treasure tokens.
Of course. Yeah. No, I think there
Mhm.
will be situations where this bat is far better.
Mhm.
Um, but I think those situations will be rarer. I think that
Mhm.
generalistically the noble is much better. Specifically, Falcon or Mirkwood bats could be very good. But in constructed, like, do you think this card's gonna really make an impact on constructed? I mean, the thing that it kind of fits in for me, at least, is like this is maybe a same turn win condition for the Ultratron deck.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think anything else really plays it, right?
Well, if there is, it's going to be a new deck. It's going to be something that really
Yeah,
prioritizes
maybe.
cards that do something proactive and leave
Sure.
something behind. Headley Dispute. And then also
I think it could
it.
also. I kind of cut my own thought
Mhm.
process off. I think it might have a place in like a black white or maybe a mono black food deck with Cauldron
Mhm.
Familiar. That could be a thing.
Yep, that's the other part I was getting to.
Yeah.
Is that if you have a way to consistently create and sacrifice tokens, especially more than once in a turn,
Mm-hmm.
then this bat is going to be huge. It's going to be the
Sure.
win con in the deck that it finds itself in,
Mm-hmm.
if it finds itself a deck.
Yeah. Really interesting card. I think there's gonna get this card's gonna see a lot of use in Pauper EDH. I know a lot of people were just like, "Man, this card's insane." So excited to see where this card
Mhm.
ends up. There will definitely be some discussion about whether or not this card makes the cube. Um, we'll really have to take a look at the token production in the cube to see if it's worth it, but not sure. That'll require some really in-depth evaluation. Um, but that is all we had for Mirkwood Bats. Let's go ahead and move into the red section. You'll
Mhm.
notice that we skipped straight to black, and we're not talking about any white or blue cards, and that's because there are no white or blue cards worth talking about. So I apologize to all your familiar players that were hoping to get more cards, or Cog8 players that were hoping to get more cards. You're not gonna. You got Meeting of the Minds last set, and you calm down. Next up is Breaking of the Fellowship. This is a card you wanted to talk about, so I'll let you take the lead. But first off, it is a sorcery. For a red and a colorless, it says target creature an opponent controls deals damage equal to its power to another target creature that player controls, and then the ring tempts you. Now, we've talked off camera about the ring and the powers of the One Ring and the emblem that it gives you. So I can only assume that this card is not on your radar because of the ring. That's probably additive distraction. So you were
Mhm.
probably interested in the first part of that text box, right?
Yes, I'm definitely more interested in the first part. The second part for sure is nice flavor. But this is just um I'm not gonna say that it's the best form of removal that red has. But I mean if you're playing against 4/4s, this isn't a bad thing to have. Especially because along the path of the ring tempting you, that creature that you chose as the ring bearer can't be blocked by creatures with greater power.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be able to squeeze damage in there. You're also going to be able to clear the way if they have two big doofers out.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really good way of dealing with the 5/5s that Tolarian Terror tends to
Sure.
put out. So I'm thinking it's an interesting card. It'll be paying 4 mana to kill that uh, that kind of a creature at the time.
It'd be 6
Maybe
if you have to target both
6 if you have to
Tolarian
target
terrors.
two. Yeah. So you're not winning on mana, but you are going to be able to deal with it with one card, which is something that Red has had trouble with.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like the idea of this being able to deal with things like greater than 4 toughness. Important to realize we do still have Unholy Heat.
Hmm.
So there is another option for red to deal with bigger toughness creatures if you want to go that route. But um, yeah, this is interesting. It's a little awkward to me that it has to target two creatures. I understand why it has to target two creatures, but oftentimes those big 5/5s or those type of things are either solo or accompanied by smaller things, and paying 2 mana to have your opponents 5/5 kill their 2/2 doesn't seem super helpful, um especially for 2 mana. I don't know. I'm not sold on this. I like the idea that there's a large upside of, if they're playing big creatures, you have an efficient way to at least 1-for-1 big creatures in red, which is something it lacked before.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Sorcery speed and 2 mana. I can't imagine this sees a ton of play, although it might see some.
Yeah, but then I looked it up just now as well, and the thing about the ring tempting you, it's the point that mattered is that it's can't be blocked by creatures with greater power is the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you just need one copy, and
Sure.
then even if you do use their 5/5 to kill their 2/2, you're getting in for damage.
Sure.
Like they're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to block it. So if they're low enough, that can get you the rest of
Sure.
the way there.
Sure. And that's fair. This having a pseudo falter effect built in is kind of cool.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
That being said, if
not
it was falter and have them
yeah.
fight each other, that'd be way better.
I wish it was fight each other instead of just one bites the other, but we can't have everything. Yeah, not sure this sees constructed play. This might be cube playable, but I'm not 100% on that yet. Red's removal suite is already pretty concise and very efficient. I don't know that we need this in there, especially because cube creatures tend to have bigger toughness than powers. So, when you're staring down a board of like 3/4s or 2/3s, this really isn't going to be too exciting. So,
Oh yeah, I'm just thinking of that 5/6 hippo.
right. Yeah, so not super sold on this, but it is worth keeping in mind. And if you happen to open it in your limited pool for the pre-release, recognize that this is not just my creature bites your creature. This is your creature bites your creature. So that could be very very helpful later in the game, picking off large creatures or getting them to block a creature and then using another creature to finish it off. There's definitely some other play here. So keep in mind, good one to keep on your radar and play around for the pre-release as well. Next one is Cast into the Fire. This is a 2-mana red instant. Red colorless, says choose one, deal 1 damage to each of up to 2 creatures, or exile target artifact. This is a new variant of Smash Dust, a Braid. It's kind of got Chandra's Pyrohelix vibes. So it's another modal red spell in a long line of good modal red spells. What do you like specifically about this one?
I love that this card is actually very much like you said it, Braid, in the way that you can just straight up main deck this.
Hmm.
You're gonna be able to hit creatures for damage. That's across any deck.
Hmm.
Most of the time, you'll be able to kill creatures, even just with 1 damage on them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do get the exile target artifact bonus, which you can also just have, again, main decked to deter some other things that the opposing deck can do,
Sure.
you're just sealing up your deck's weakness without sacrificing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like this just seems like a pure upgrade. And then you're going to be able to, since it says exile, and since it's instant, and only 1 color pip, you'll be able to splash it easy enough, or you'll be able to cast it simply on 2 when you do get the dream and are able to target a land on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to feel so happy that you had this in.
Sure. Well, so you also have Shattering Blow for those type of scenarios, but that is not modal. It just exiles target artifact. So there is definitely some consideration for the fact that this has other applications. Exile is definitely a good keyword right now. And I was thinking about it, and in the metagame, there's not a ton of decks that this doesn't do something against. I think the only one that I could like readily think of was Tolarian Terror or Turbo Terror. Because against fairies, the 1 damage is really good. Against anything that runs artifact lands or synthesizers or stars or wellsprings, the exile is good. Against Koldatha Red, both sides are good. You know, there's a lot to be said about this card. I will say, I'm on the fence. I like that it's an instant, and I like that it exiles, but I don't know that it replaces Smash to Dust. The 1 damage on each of up to 2 creatures is just not gonna be enough, I don't think. I think that the 1 damage to everything is more often going to be significantly better. Just because of things like Koldatha Rebirth and how prevalent token swarm style decks have become, and going really wide on things like Bushwhackers and Voldaren Epicures and, you know, that type of thing. 1 damage to everything versus 1 damage to 2 creatures, I think, is going to deal a significantly higher number of damage. That I think it's probably worth losing out on the ability to exile instead of destroy an artifact. That being said, this is instant speed, so I could very well see this making the cut of several sideboards and some main boards in the old Abrade or Smash Dust spots, or, you know, Fire and Ice slot for like Cobblade maybe. You know, so I think there's definitely play here. I don't know if it is the best variant of these red modal spells that we've gotten, but it is certainly up there and one to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the best way to really emphasize where I think this card goes is it's very similar to the Relic of Progenitus, like the 1 or 2 of that was main deck in Boros for
Sure.
a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like this card just does things incidentally that you want.
Yeah, definitely.
And like it's really just good to have.
Mm-hmm. No, I
And I
totally
don't
agree.
think you're doing that with Smash to Dust, but I think Castin of the Fire has a better application.
Well, so
in
there
that.
are a few decks that are main decking Smash to Dust, and there are also a couple decks that are maining Fire and Ice as like modal or situational flex slots.
Mm-hmm.
In those decks, I don't think this can replace Fire Ice just because the red is a splash for those decks, but it definitely could compete with Smash Dust. I just don't know which one ends up being better. Time will tell.
Yep. Experiment, everyone.
Definitely. Give it a try. Let us know down in the comments what you think of the card and whether or not you're going to be replacing Smash Dust or Braids with it. While you're down there, now is a good time to make sure you subscribe to the channel. We actually just hit 600 subs, which means that if you stick around till the end of this video, we are going to be announcing our 600 sub giveaway. So make sure you stick around so that you know what's put down in the comments below to qualify for the giveaway. And make sure you're subscribed and you hit the notification bell, because a lot of people have been saying they're not notified of my videos. So just make sure that you hit that little bell so you know when I post new videos. And the schedule is always the same, Saturday mornings, PST. I'll see you guys there. But next up, we have Erebor Flamesmith, which is an unassuming card. It's a 2/1 Dwarf Artificer for a red and a colorless. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Now, you may ask yourself why this card is on the highlight reel, considering we have a very popular Kessig Flame Breather already being played, which is this exact card, but it's a 1/3 instead of a 2/1. And, well, the answer to that is that Firebrand Archer, a card that is exactly this card, a 2/1 4/2, that when you cast a non-creature spell, it pings for 1, is seeing play. And it's worth noting that this card exists as a parallel to Firebrand Archer, just for deck building and being able to stay fluid and have redundancy in specific decks. Now, I can't imagine wanting 12 copies of this card in a red deck. 16 if you count for Thermal Alchemists. But it is worth noting that we do have another variant of this card, so maybe you like this art better. This is, for all intents and purposes, a functional reprint of Firebrand Archer. So if you like this one better, or you're just a big fan of dwarfs for some reason, then go ahead and load up. It's going to be a playable card for sure. Have anything for this one?
Not particularly. I mean, it's Firebrand Archer.
Yep.
We've seen it before.
All right. Next
Your
up
Artificer
is
synergy.
a card we haven't seen before, or rather have, but slightly differently. Is Improvised Club. This is a 2-mana instant for a red and a colorless. It says an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, and it deals 4 damage to any target. This is a close but better variant of Heartfire. So Josh, take it away. What do you think about this card?
I think that it's a very pretty card. I like the flavor text on it. And it's got a good name, very good name. The rest of it's just you don't need to know what it does, or the spell speed. Just know that it looks pretty. It's got a good name and the flavor text.
It's this is a card. This is a real card. On the back of Final Flourish, I think it was called, the -2/-2 kicked is -6/-6 second artifact or creature, right? It was Final Flourish.
That was final something.
Yeah. I think it was Final Flourish because I remember it being alliterative. But off the back of that, we have a burn variant, which is just another Heartfire, but this allows you to sack artifacts. And turns out that is good in Pauper. Very, very good. Now, a lot of people are assuming, and potentially rightly so, that this card is going to find a home in Kuldotha Red and make that deck even more of a problem. I disagree. I don't think this is going to find a place in Kuldotha Red. My logic is quite simple. The deck runs 17 or 18 land max. It runs 17 if it's all mountains and ancient dens or great furnaces. It runs 18 if it runs a single of the all will be one sacrifice to draw a card mountain. The Great Forge, or whatever it was called, Urabrask's land. And simply the deck can't afford that many more 2-drops. It's already running 7 to 8 of the Ren's Resolve and Reckless Impulse combo, so 8 Pulse as it's known. It's already running up to 8 of those cards, and that's pushing it for the 2-drop slot to be able to not stonewall yourself on dead cards through impulsing. Plus you add in Goblin Bushwhacker as a pseudo 2-drop, and the deck has a lot of 2-drops for 17 land. So I don't think that it can actually support this card, and I don't think that it needs this card bad enough to cut impulses to do it. What I do think this card will be very good in is like the Boros synthesizer decks that are running synthesizer and like Wellspring or Golden Egg and Core Skyfisher Glinthawk style decks that are bouncing over and over again for value. They were already running a couple copies of Foundry Helix in the main board, and I think this card could pretty easily swap in for that Foundry Helix. Outside of that, I think this card could be good in Black Red Burn or Madness Burn. I know that it doesn't let you discard a card, but being able to sacrifice one of your treasure tokens or or your stars or blood tokens or something for 4 damage at instant speed is pretty strong. Yeah, don't think this is going to make the cut in Kuldotha Red, but this will almost certainly be included in variants of Boros, and it'll probably see at least fringe play in Affinity. I don't know if Affinity can afford to play this. It really only has like 1 or 2 flex slots left. Right now it's running like a Singleton Flourish or like an Unexpected Fangs Chainers or an Unexpected Fangs Terminate or like, an extra Kenku Artificer or something along those lines. So it's really difficult to find cut slots in that deck, especially in a deck that already has a fair bit of removal in Galv Blast and Makeshift Munitions and Krark-Clan Shamans. So, not sure Affinity will see this card more than maybe a 1 of or a 2 of in the odd list, but yeah, man, what do you think this is gonna? Where do you think this is gonna go?
So I want to go back just a little bit. Improvised Club, jokes aside, there are 2 cards that I think it really harkens towards, right? Like they've taken inspiration from when designing. There's Reckless Abandon, which came out a long time ago. Ours is Destiny with the flask. That's a sorcery. Pay a red, sack a creature, deals 4 to target creature or player. Downside of that is it's sorcery, and also the downside is it costs 1. That's only a downside because of the spell stutter sprite.
Okay.
So I think Improvised Club is an upgrade to that. I think that's also really close to Heartfire. Like you hit the nail on the head. They just tacked on Artifact and didn't affect the mana cost or speed. And I think this is the best we're going to get of this effect of the sacrifice and deal damage to anything. I don't think it's going to get cheaper and better. I think this is just peak.
So I disagree that we're peak. I think that this card is testing the waters, let's say, for a Shrapnel Blast downprint or a downshift. And
isn't this already?
No, Shrapnel's 5.
Except for 5? Yeah.
Shrapnel Blast is 5, and it only sacks an artifact, not a creature.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting real close, is my point.
So I don't want 5 damage on a red spell to any target in Pauper. That's a lot. And especially when it draws you a card. This card, Improvised Club, like you said, sacrificing a star, sacrificing a synthesizer, sacrificing an egg. Those all get you something as well as killing something. And while it does require a little bit of setup, it's not terrible. Terribly difficult.
Not a lot of setup.
Yeah, right. Oftentimes can be done in the same turn.
Yep.
Alongside other things.
Well, yeah, why would you sacrifice anything that doesn't get you additional value? That just seems wrong.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But then you hit the nail on the head with the decks that I think it would be going in terms of Boros, or even the Mardu version of that would probably want.
Mardu fires.
Yeah, because this is really good. I think the only way it gets better at a reasonable power level is sacrifice a permanent instead of just artifact or creature.
That would be interesting, because then we'd be looking at like shard volley type stuff too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is for sure testing the waters. I think this is the best that we should get.
Yeah, this is really pushing the barrier between common and uncommon in terms of power level. Looking at just the history of what they have printed at both rarities, this is really close to an uncommon. So yeah, I think this card's great. Pick up some foils, you're gonna want them. This card's definitely gonna see play, although it might not see play in what people think it will see play in. So keep your eye out for decks to try this in. I think it'll be good in a lot. Next up is Rally at the Hornburg. This might be a little bit of a deep cut, as I don't see this card having a huge impact on Pauper Constructed, but it is a 2-mana sorcery for red and colorless. Create 2 1/1 human soldier tokens, and then humans you control gain haste until end of turn. So This is a really interesting card. It's akin to Forbidden Friendship from Ikoria, I believe, um, where you get a human and a dinosaur, but the dinosaur has haste. This just gives you 2/1/1s. They both have haste. This is very similar functionally to EOT Raise the Alarm. Um, this is one of the best variants of this style, 2/1/1 tokens for 2 mana cards that we've ever seen. Um, really excited about this card. I don't think it will make a huge impact on Pauper Constructed. I just don't think the format is um, kind of dirtily enough for 2/1/1s for 2 mana to really turn the tides, make the difference. But in Cube, this card is easily going to be windmill slammed into the Cube list. Things like Krenko's Command, Forbidden Friendship. I mean, all of the 2 mana 2/1/1 cards are worse than this card. So this is easily making the cut there. Really excited to have a new token variant. And I like that they're humans. It's really interesting, kind of sub dynamic. So that in like the red white token swarm deck, you may arbitrarily get some extra damage from some other humans that also gain haste from this card. It's not a tribal themed cube. I don't really play any tribe matters cards. This might be the only one. So I don't want to like confuse players and think that humans is a tribe now. You should build humans, but um, man, this card is quite good. Really excited about it.
Mm-hmm. I like this card quite a bit as well. It just fits into that 2 mana slot. Like this is what I expect, or what I want to expect from now on.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem too overly busted. I like that it's got that little tribal hint at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if it does see play in constructed, it's going to be because of the haste.
Definitely.
Um, eh, Not exactly in the same way that first day of class was, but
Hmm.
something like you run something out and then you'll play rally at the Hornburg,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to
Yeah.
cast first day and then, oh, that didn't resolve. Okay, I have to hold back and restructure my entire turn.
Sure.
Um, Something I'm thinking about is there was that 3 mana guy untaps when creatures enter, and the Presence of Gond
Yeah.
combo.
Sure.
I think
The
that this it
midnight
works.
whatever.
Yeah, I think this works hilariously well in that because the two creatures enter and the humans control get in haste until the end of turn happen at the same time. Then he gets the two untapped triggers based off the rally. So if you have something else on him, like say a Utopia Sprawl or something that makes him tap for mana, then you get 2 mana and the spell is free.
Hmm.
Um, just something that you can do just to get another uh, value angle out of him.
Sure.
Um,
Just
so
just to clarify, Presence of Gond makes saplings, right?
it does,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
It's like you're gonna have to win some other way,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
or just wait a turn to win. But
Sure.
um,
I guess I'll play Impact Tremors.
Mhm. Right, and I'm reasonably sure that based on the way this card is written, it's only the humans you control at the time the spell resolves.
Correct.
So if there's just some other way to get value out of the guy tapping, that's
Uh-huh.
probably where this is going to see value or see to play.
Yeah, could
Um,
be. I'm actually looking at it a little bit differently. I was looking at this card in context of like almost a stompy version. Like obviously I think this card is most at home in the cube, but if it does make any appearance in Pauper Constructed, it will be because Burning Tree Emissary is a human.
oh no way!
Yeah. So
That's
you
good.
can come up with some really cool curves with this card with Burning Tree Emissary accompanying it. And that's what I'm excited about. I think that's going to be a really cool turn 2 kind of beat downy style deck. I mean, it's like remnants of green stompy, but it'd be like green red stompy or burning tree stompy. I don't know what you'd call it, but I think there's something there.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you can I kind of want to call it Forest Fires,
Ooh, that's a good name.
and just because of the name, put the Cleansing Wildfire in. That'd be a
Yeah,
nice thing to
if
hit
only
at the
Fires
end
of
of it.
Yamamaya was legal.
Oh, jeez. Oh, give me Fires of Yamimaya. Nah, but Rally is a pretty cool card for
Yep.
sure. Cube slot.
Yeah, excited about that, and really interested to see if anybody comes up with some broken, disgusting turn two burning tree emissary style um, decks to really kind of pump out some early hasty damage with this card. Let me know. Let me know on Twitter. Hit me up if you come up with a cool list. I will happily play it through a league and do some spotlight games for it on a deck feature. I think that'd be exciting to take a look at. Next up is our final red card. Yes, there were a lot of red cards to talk about in this set. It is Smite the Deathless, which is another instant for red and colorless. It deals 3 damage to target creature. That creature loses indestructible until end of turn, and if that creature would die, exile it instead. There's a lot of text on this card. This was actually one of your picks, so I'll let you take the lead on it. What do you like here?
So I enjoy this as just a 3-mana kill your dude. It's got 2 impressive parts on it that say the dude loses indestructible, and also if it dies, exile it instead.
Mhm.
It dies this turn. Uh, this is a similar to my other picks. This is a reactive card. I definitely like the control style decks a little bit more. But this hits the Kenku very, very well. Hits
Mhm.
a land the Kenku activates because it straight up loses indestructible.
Yep.
Um, I don't think that there's a creature that survives this unless it's got regenerate.
Which is
Um,
hilarious to me, by the way.
mhm, yeah, and it does have a downside of hitting only creatures.
Yeah.
So I don't know that this isn't going to be a main deck card. I think this is going to be a sideboard because it only hits creatures, but it'll be useful when you need it, especially if you're weak to something like Affinity.
Yeah, I think this just like removing indestructible from the Kenku animated bridges is really nice. Um, I I just it's so narrow. I don't know if that's good enough. I think that like because affinity even the affinity that plays a lot of Kenkus only plays 2. So
Mhm.
like I just even though it's a great card and this is a very clean answer to it, I just can't see you spending whole sideboard slots on one card to answer one half of 1/2 of in a deck that you're not good against. Like
Mhm.
that seems like a lot.
Well,
But
here's
it is
mhm.
it is a really unique effect. And unique effects time and time again have proven to be better than first glance. So I am willing to concede this card is probably better than I think it is.
Mhm.
Um, just because loses indestructible and then if it would die exile it is very powerful text.
Yeah, and I think that the part that's confusing the most for new people, at least, or honestly anyone, is that they're really focusing on the 3.
Mm-hmm.
I offered up Kenku and its token as something that you would like to hit on its own, just with this card.
Oh, definitely.
But
Mm-hmm.
you can also, if something's taken damage, say from your
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
opponent's board wipe, or even
Combat.
taken damage through combat,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right, well, all right, now that I dealt 1 damage to your 4/4, let's exile it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really a combat trick outside of Ephemerate and the blue 3-mana one, Ghostly Flicker,
Mm-hmm.
that deal with Smite the Deathless. I'm sure there's counter spells and Deadly Dispute, but that creature's definitely dying.
Yeah, there's some sacrifice things that can
Mhm.
get around it, but yeah, largely this card is going to
Mhm.
exile whatever you're targeting. And that card, like that effect is really powerful. Exile is very good right now. Um, just in general, like the ability to exile, an Archaeomancer or an Ardent Elementalist or a Sunscape Familiar or a Gurmag Angler that had taken damage, or any of these things is all very, very good because they're all cards that want to be brought back, and getting rid of them through exile is very powerful. I wish that this card answered Myr Retriever the way I want it to, but because of the nature of that deck, they're just going to sack it in response.
Yeah. So that's the other criticism that I'm surprised you didn't bring up, is that the card we addressed 3 or 4 before this, well, that I was mostly excited about, exiling just target artifact, like that's just better than Smite the Deathless against that deck. Dealing 1, sure you can hit the Kenku, but you can also exile the 3/3s. Like that also works. It's just that's really their only overlap.
No, I think Cast into the Fire. Yeah, I think Cast into the Fire is almost always better. But
I agree.
But I do like that this effect has several variations, which is cool. Red having access to a couple different ways to exile is fairly unique and fairly important, I think. So definitely going to be some kind of dark horse power in this card, I think.
Right. Not a 4 of, but pretty art. Get some foils.
Sure.
There's like 2 of, maybe.
Next up is Elven Farsight, our first green Pauper quick hit in like 4 sets. And I wish I was exaggerating. This is the first like genuinely okay green card we've had printed into Pauper in a long time. That being said, it is not incredible. It's barely even good. So, I apologize, you green mages, you're still in a drought. There is a shred of hope, and Elven Farsight is it. For 1 green, it's a sorcery. It says scry 3, then you may reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature, draw a card. Important to know, if you really need the card that's on top, you can just leave it there. You don't like mill the card if you don't draw it. It just leaves it on top. So you don't even have to reveal it. That's a may. So you can just say, I'm going to scry 3 and then leave it on top and draw it next turn. Now, obviously, that is not the ideal scenario for this card, but having some top deck manipulation in green is fairly unique. And this is the first like reasonable green spell we've seen in a while. Scry 3 draw a creature is like pretty good ponder in constructed. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think this card's great, and I don't think the decks that could play this card want this card. But we're getting closer to like good green card draw.
Yeah, we are getting closer. I'm honestly a little sad because I was working off of memory, but this is just a cheaper Thrackdown. But they took off the thing where you can find a land with it.
Correct.
Which, honestly, that should be on a 1-mana spell. Is if it's a creature or a land, draw the card.
Agreed.
Like Trackdown didn't break the meta or anything.
Not even
when
close.
It was printed in 21, right? It was just a draft chaff that you never thought of ever again, except unless you're me, you just got the headspace to spare. Yeah, I think Elven Farsight's okay. I do think the Adventurous Impulse, boom, where you choose land or non-land, that one's gonna be better.
Abundant Harvest.
That's what it was. Adventurous Impulse. Is that the get a land?
No idea.
Straight up tutor land?
But yeah, abundant is definitely better.
Yeah, and so I don't think there's going to be a deck that needs more than 1 green.
I don't think so either, but this is the closest to a good green card we've had in so long. I felt that it was at least worth talking about.
Oh yeah, for sure. If top deck manipulation is your thing, like if you're running Ghoul Caller's Bell, then
nobody's running Ghoul's Caller Bell. Sure. Josh, no one.
I know no one is. I know.
Ghoul Caller's Bell.
I'm just giving an example.
No, you're not.
If the top of your deck matters, then this is probably important to you.
That's fair. All right. You ready to move on to an actual card that will see play?
What if you're clashing? If you're clashing, then Elven Farsight is going to be good
It's
for
a
you.
sorcery. Also, all right. Moving on. We see a very powerful artifact printed. This is Lembas, which is a food. And for 2 mana, you get an artifact food. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 1, then draw a card. And for 2 and a tap, you can do the food thing and gain 3 life and sacrifice it. And when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you shuffle it into your library. So this is uh golden egg if you don't want colored mana, but you want to be able to reuse your artifact. This card's very good. Scry 1, then draw a card instead of just draw a card is significantly better than just draw a card. Being on a 2-drop artifact that ETBs, that can be flickered, that can be bounced and replayed. I think this is another one of those slam dunk cards for the Boros Synthesizer deck. And having another good food next to Golden Egg is going to, and Gingerbrute, is going to be very realistically approaching critical mass where Cauldron Familiar becomes to be a real card. So we're getting really close to, I kind of want to brew Cauldron Familiar because we have enough food to make that card good. And really interested to see what that number is of good food before that critical mass is reached. But I think we're getting close. What do you think about this card?
All right, now hear me out. Krark Clan Ironworks needs a downshift.
Oh, hell no.
I don't. What he didn't even.
You have Ashnod's Altar, all right? That's all you
Yeah,
get.
yeah, but that would be a 2-card infinite, infinite spell. So you could
No.
storm so much. Yeah,
No.
you're the opposite of fun right now. But yeah, Limbo spread, fine. I like the Scry one. It's going to be a lot more important, so I think that this is going to be better than Egg. The only other deck that I know of that runs it is the Boros deck, and they don't really stutter on mana.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Lembas is fine. It's a pretty nice home in there.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Just Scry seems good.
Mm-hmm. Next and finally, the last card of Tales from Middle-earth, Shire Terrace. This is a land, enters play untapped. It taps for colorless, and you can also pay 1 tap, sacrifice it, search for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. So for 1 mana, you can make your own Evolving Wilds. But it is also an Evolving Wilds that comes into play untapped and taps for colorless mana. So it's sort of like Ash Barrens, but with Evolving Wilds on it. This is Ash Barrens that you don't have to decide if you want the basic or the colored mana now.
I got this. This is the best panorama. We begged for it, we pleaded Wizards, and we got it.
No, so yes, this is the best panorama, but also, if you look at it in terms of the Ash Barrens comparison, a lot of people obviously say that Ash Barrens' only big downfall is that you have to choose between if you need the colorless mana or if you want the deck thinning. Right? Obviously, you can do it at instant speed, you can do it at end of turn, you can do all these things. Shire Terrace does exactly the same thing, but you don't have to choose whether or not you want the colored mana now or you want the deck thinning. You can just always play Shire Terrace, and then when you don't need the colorless mana, you sack it for the thinning. This is just Ash Barrens, but you always get both halves.
I guess, but Shire Terrace notably doesn't let that land you get be your land for the turn.
Correct. It does not let you play the land untapped.
So you're not paying a black, getting an island, and playing an island for your turn, and having your counterspell mana up. That's not going to happen. This is your Shire Terrace where you have a black, a blue, and a colorless, and then you have a 1-mana interaction spell, and then you have to search for the other island.
That seems very hyper specific, but no, I think this land is better than people are assuming it is.
I've been enabled before.
I think this land is better than people are assuming it is. I think people look at this and they're like, why would I pay mana for Evolving Wilds? And then they look at Ash Barrens and they're like, why wouldn't I just play Ash Barrens? I think that this card is better than people think. I think that this is both halves of Ash Barrens, but you get both. Yes, you cannot crack it on the turn you draw it to then play an untapped land, but you can still end of turn it. It's exactly the same cost as an end of turn Ash Barrens. You still get the colorless mana when you need it to be on curve. I mean, this is just all the things, and I think this card's quite good. You have any final thoughts here?
No, I've always liked that card.
All right,
Ever
what
since
about
the day I saw it.
what about the set as a whole? Obviously, we had a lot of cards to talk about in red. Didn't have anything in white or blue to talk about. Are you particularly excited about anything coming out of this set for Pauper?
There's a lot of good red cards, but I'm not very happy that the good cards coming out of this set are red.
That's fair. I'm pretty excited about Rally. I think that card has the potential to make some really cool decks. But we shall see. If Burning Tree Rally isn't good enough, then maybe we never see it in Constructed. But if it is good enough, boy oh boy, does that deck sound fun. Anyway, guys, that wraps up the Pauper set review for Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. And all of the notables or quick hits for Pauper Constructed and Cube. Thank you so much for watching along. Make sure you comment down below what your favorite of the 5 custom channel tokens is. If you're not familiar with what they look like or what they are, I will link the video here. Go ahead and check out the tokens and let me know which one you're most excited about or what your favorite art was, and that'll qualify you to get a full set of foil tokens just as a little thank you for supporting the channel. We'll get those mailed out to you. Unfortunately, it is US only, but thank you so much for watching. As usual, guys, goodbye forever unless I see you next time. Peace.
Bye-bye now.
Uh.